Hey guys, welcome back to Friction Grand Rapids. Coach Bobby here. Today we're going to talk about front rack flexibility. So the way we're going to present this information is with the most impactful areas first, meaning we're going to start with the upper back and the shoulder and teach you those mobilizations because they're going to improve your range of motion the most. And then we're going to work down the rotation of the shoulder and then work into the small joints of the wrist. And that should be the way you should approach front rack flexibility. So that's the way you're going to learn it today. So we're going to start on the upper back and specifically the thoracic spine. So when we look at that, we're going to use Coach Trina here. The thoracic spine is the area of the back that goes from your shoulder to right about where your ribs end. So when we approach our mobilization today, we're going to actually just work on one side. So the thoracic spine, or the erector spinae, if you want to get technical, is going to be the muscle between your shoulder blade and your spine. So during this mobilization, you're going to notice that Trina's going to actually take her arm and pull it across her body. And that'll move the shoulder blade over, which is going to be the position the shoulder blade is in when we're in the front rack. And she's going to work on all this tissue through here during the front rack mobilization. Starting in the lower part of her back, going to cross her arm across her body. So she's working on her left side. She's leaning her hips towards her left. And then she's just going to slide up and down. So if you want a lot of pressure on this one, you can keep your hips up. If you want less, you can let your hips slide. But you can work anywhere between 5 to 20 repetitions on this one. And that's just going to loosen up those muscles, allow that shoulder blade to move more freely. Next area that's going to make a big impact is loosening up your lat. So your lat is a muscle that runs from your shoulder and it connects down to your lower back. So loosening this up is going to allow that muscle to get a little bit longer, which again is going to allow your shoulder blade to move more freely to support that barbell. We're going to be sitting on the side of our hip, a roller set up perpendicular to our body, and then we're going to work a few inches below our armpit, and you really only need to cover a distance of 3, maybe 4 inches. You're just going back and forth through that muscle group. Your shoulders should be stacked, and you're turned up to the ceiling. All right, guys, so the next one is going to be the trap. Now, the trap breaks down in a few different groups. There's upper trap, mid trap, and lower. For the front rack, we want to improve our flexibility with the mid trap. So the mid trap is going to be between the shoulder blade and the spine. It's right through this area. So when we are doing this one, we're going to again cross our arm across our body, and that's going to lengthen the muscle. And then we're going to work through this little space against the wall. So Trina, go ahead and grab the ball. The easiest way to do this is to lean up against the wall. So she's working on her left. She's going to pull her left arm across her body, get that stretch there, and then she's going to bend her knees a little bit and just lean up and down. If you want more pressure, you can walk away a little bit more or even lay on the ground for this one. But I would suggest starting on the wall first. Hey guys, so now that we've covered the bigger areas, if we still want to make some improvements into our front rack position, we'll kind of move into the smaller area, which is going to be rotation of the shoulder. So the next area we're going to work on is external rotator. If we want more details on this muscle, it's the teres minor, but you don't really need to know that. We just need to know where the muscle is. So if we have Trina flex her shoulders really strong here, we can see her rear delt. Just below that is the teres minor, or that external shoulder rotator. So we're going to pin the ball right there for our setup. So we need to know where that is. But once we know where the muscle is, we can go into this one. And the best way to do this is on the floor. So Trina is going to set up on the floor and position her shoulder just over top of that muscle that we located, and she's going to make sure her shoulders are stacked. If that's too much pressure, you can always lean back so your chest opens up more. But once we're set there, we want 90 degrees in the elbow, meaning, or 90 in the elbow and then 90 in the shoulder, meaning we want the elbow as high as the shoulder. Once we're there, we're just going to rotate our arm back and forth. And then just remember to be careful with this one because it's a really small muscle. You don't want to overdo it. And anywhere from 5 to 15 reps should do the trick. All right, guys, now that we've softened and loosened up that shoulder rotator muscle, we're going to work on lengthening it with respect to that front rack position, meaning we want to kind of get that stretch to get as close to the position we're trying to mimic with the barbell. So one of the best ways to do that is to use a PVC pipe. And we're going to take that PVC pipe, hold it like a sword, where most of the length is above our hand. From here, we're going to place it right behind our shoulder. And we want to reach our other hand across our body, grab that sword, and we're gonna pull down so that our hand is sitting just on top of our shoulder, just like if we had the barbell for a front rack. Once we're there, we wanna make sure our elbow is at the same height as our shoulder, but also that it's directly in front of it. We don't want our elbow out too wide or too close in, because we wanna mimic that front rack position. Once we're in position, we're gonna now pivot that barbell and just work back and forth. So you're kind of going in and out of a stretch with this one. And after anywhere from 5 to 15 pivots there, you're gonna hold it for about 30 seconds to no more than 2 minutes in that tightest position. So now that we've worked on the bigger areas, some of the smaller areas with rotation, we kind of approach the last small piece of front rack flexibility, which is really gonna be improving flexibility of the wrist when it's extended or when it's in this position when we're holding a barbell. Place your hand on the wall, and what you're gonna do is then spin your fingers around so they're pointing down. Good, awesome. So now we're in that rotation that we saw in our other stretches, but we want our palm to be flat. So if you can't do that, yep, position it lower, and then as you get more flexible with this one, you'll position it higher. But for today, we're gonna stay here. So once your palm is flat, fingers are down, what we're gonna then do is look to the opposite wall, and we're gonna actually start to turn our shoulders and chest to that opposite wall. And this is gonna give you a huge stretch through the wrist, but it's also gonna loosen up your forearm, your elbow, your shoulder, maybe even a little bit into your neck. Just make sure that it's not like a really nervy type pain. It should just feel like a gentle stretch. Anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes should help improve that front rack position. All right, guys, so to review everything we saw today, when you start working on front rack flexibility, start in the bigger areas, your upper back, the shoulder, and then kind of trickle down into the rotators, and then into the smaller areas, because the bigger areas are gonna have a bigger impact, or if you're short for time, work the big areas first, and then if you do have more time, you can kind of start working the smaller groups. If you want to hear more informative fitness, strength, and flexibility information in the future, like and subscribe to get more of that. If you want to get some in-person coaching or have us work with you specifically, go to frictiongrandrapids.com and schedule an intro for yourself. We'll see you next time.